Scary, true, paranormal story number 1. The Tatum's Haunting. In the mid-1980s, in a quiet suburb near Atlanta, Georgia, Jim and Kate Tatum built a new home with plans to retire. But just 5 months after they moved into their home, the Tatums began to experience a series of unexplained occurrences that would ultimately force them to put their house up for sale. One dark night, Kate could not sleep. She felt something was in the hall outside her bedroom. When she got up to investigate, she saw a glimpse of a dark, black figure walking past her open doorway. She told her husband Tim, and he searched the whole house with nothing to show for. Shortly after the incident, Kate just suspected that he may not have been an actual person, but maybe a ghost or even a demon. 2 months later, one night in March, Jim was working upstairs on the house. He stopped working when Kate called him for dinner, and he unplugged his drill and put it to the side. As the evening wore on, Jim decided to watch a movie while Kate went upstairs to read a book. Later, Kate heard the sound of the drill outside her bedroom. She thought Jim was teasing her about having seen a ghost, but before long she felt that the joke had gone on for way too long. She got up, out of bed, and walked into the hallway. It was empty, and the drill was unplugged, laying on the ground. When she knelt down to touch the drill to see if it was warm, it was ice cold. Not too long after that, Jim bought Kate a bell to ring when she needed something. It was an angel bell that he had bought at a garage sale. Kate had a surgery and was having trouble getting out of bed, and he didn't want her to move around too much, especially after having a surgery. So one night, Jim heard the bell ring and went to see what Kate needed. He found that Kate was sound asleep, and the bell had not been moved at all. After the 3rd time of this happening, Jim had gotten tired of the teasing of the ringing of the bell. One day, Jim and Kate were at the breakfast table, and Jim came up with an idea. He whispered to Kate that only after the bell rang 3 times would he then know it was Kate, rather than it just ringing once like it had been doing by itself. Then, and only then, he would come upstairs. That very night, while Jim was downstairs watching television, the angel bell rang 3 times, just as they had talked about at the breakfast table. Believing this time it was truly Kate, Jim made his way upstairs, but when he got to Kate's room, what he saw shocked him to the core. Kate, his wife, was sound asleep. The angel bell wasn't even near Kate. It was on a shelf across from her bed. That's when Jim knew full well that the ghost heard their conversation about ringing the bell 3 times at the breakfast table. Jim picked up the angel bell and looked at it and then placed it back on the shelf and walked out of the room. But before he could leave the bedroom, the angel bell rang a 4th time. Jim said he got chills running up and down his arms. He said he felt as if something was staring at him. That the fear he felt at that moment was unexplainable. Jim claims that this experience went against everything he was ever taught regarding the paranormal, and that he is truly a believer to this day. The Tatums, not too long after, moved out of their house and put it up for sale.
Scary, true, paranormal story number 2. The Tallman Bunk Beds.
In Wisconsin, in early February of 1987, Alan and Debbie Tallman purchased bunk beds at a secondhand thrift store. They stored them in their basement. 3 months later, in May of 1987, they moved the bunk beds upstairs to their kids' room. This marked 9 months of paranormal and terrifying experiences for the family. Strange occurrences began to happen nightly. The first night the bunk beds were upstairs, their oldest son went into his parents' room claiming that his radio clock was playing music by itself and turning different stations on its own. His dad got upset thinking that his son was being immature and took the radio away from his son, warning him to behave. Another night, as their kids were asleep, they were awoken by something or someone crawling on the ground, portraying a dog and growling and barking at them. Even though it was dark in their room, they could still see the outline of a dark shadow crawling in and out from underneath their bunk beds. Also, their daughter would explain that there was a fire in her room. When Alan and Debbie went to investigate, they found nothing. One quiet night, Alan and Debbie heard their daughter screaming. They went to see what was wrong. She claimed there was a witch with red eyes standing behind her door. Later that week, Alan Tallman came home from working night shift around 2 o'clock in the morning. After pulling in the driveway and getting out of his car, he began to hear a howling in the wind. The wind began to pick up, and the howling got louder and louder. Then he heard a voice say, "Come here," from around the side of the house. That's when he walked around to the side of the house, but nothing was there. When he came back around the corner to the front of the garage, to his shock, the garage was on fire with flames reaching past the rooftop. He quickly went into the house to retrieve a fire extinguisher, and when he came back outside, to his shock, there was no fire nor any indication of one. He walked inside his house and closed the front door in disbelief. But as he reached down to pick up his lunch kit, it was thrown across the living room by an unknown entity. There was a night when Mr. Tallman had to go to work and begged his brother Todd to stay the night with his family to protect them from whatever was haunting their house. So his brother Todd spent the night at his house. Around 2 o'clock in the morning, while Todd was asleep on the floor of the kid's bedroom, he was awoken by a noise he heard coming from the closet. Fog began to slowly appear out of nowhere. He then sat up and stared at the closet door as it began to slowly open. What happened next will forever be a secret that no one knows, but only Todd. A bright light filled the room, and Todd witnessed something truly terrifying. He screamed and sat up, petrified, with no emotion in his face. To this very day, Todd has never said exactly what he saw that night. Debbie entered the room and began to grab her children. She screamed at Todd to snap out of it and get up. She asked Todd what did he see, but he did not answer her. He slowly walked like a zombie with no facial expressions. After a couple of minutes, he finally snapped out of it and began to get the rest of the kids out of the house. They left the house that night. That following weekend, the Tallmans had the bunk beds crushed by a bulldozer, and not long after that, they moved out of their house, hoping that the ghost or entity would not follow them wherever they went.
Scary, true, paranormal story number 3, the Chicago Bull Shirt.
In 1990, when I was 8 years old, my mom had gotten me a Chicago Bull shirt from a garage sale. Soon after purchasing this shirt, many unexplainable occurrences took place. The shirt had a picture of an angry-looking bull with red eyes blowing smoke from its nose. I really liked it, and I would wear the shirt a lot. One night when my mother came home from work, she pulled into the driveway and said that my father was standing on the side of the trailer and looked at her and walked behind the trailer. She had thought this was kind of odd and went into the trailer expecting for my dad to be outside, yet my dad was inside taking a shower. She asked him that night if he had ever went outside to do anything at all. He said that he was in the trailer the whole day. Shortly after that, weird things would happen daily. But one night, everything changed. Me and my older brother and sister were playing cards in our room when something pulled on my brother's shirt from the closet door. My brother had his back against the closet. The closet door was not shut all the way, and there was an opening. He said he felt something pull his shirt through the opening of the door. We began joking around and continued to play cards. That's when we heard another noise coming from inside the closet. Me and my sister then saw something that would terrify us for years. A black, oily-looking arm reached out and tugged on my brother's shirt a second time. But this time, we were there to see it with our own eyes. We all jumped up and ran out of that bedroom screaming. We told my parents that someone pulled my brother's t-shirt through the closet door and that someone was in the closet. That's when my father grabbed a baseball bat and made his way to the closet door and slowly opened it. My mother had the phone in her hand, ready to call the police. But as soon as my father opened the closet door, the only thing that was there was my Chicago Bulls shirt hanging on a hanger, staring right at us. I was confused, as I had remembered putting it in the dirty clothes. My dad decided to burn the t-shirt that night on the barbecue pit. We all waited patiently as my father poured lighter fluid on the shirt, but as soon as the shirt lit on fire, we then heard the most god-awful scream come from the t-shirt. All I remember is that we all ran inside the trailer screaming, and my sister was crying. My mother then said many prayers that night, and we had no more unexplainable occurrences after that. My mother never bought me clothes ever again from a garage sale.